This happened about a month ago. I'm a 32-year-old teacher, new to this small town. After a rough breakup, I moved here to find peace. I thought the quiet streets would be nice. But that evening, things changed. It was rainy, a typical night for this time of year. I had a meeting at school and was walking home down Maple Street. I opened my umbrella, listening to the rain. It was soothing, until I heard it. A soft whistle, distant but clear. At first, I thought it was kids playing, but something felt off. I shrugged it off and walked faster. Over the next few days, the whistle returned, always faint but persistent. I tried to ignore it, but I felt weird, uneasy. I noticed shadows behind trees when I walked home, there 1 second and gone the next. I was tired. Maybe I was imagining things. The kids in the neighborhood seemed different too. They talked about an invisible friend, and their faces lit with fear and excitement. I thought it was just kid stuff, but their parents looked nervous, avoiding my gaze. It gave me a strange feeling, like they all knew something I didn't. One stormy night, I decided to find out what was going on. I grabbed my raincoat and headed out into the rain. The wind whistled through the trees, making them creak and sway. The whistle called to me, pulling me toward the playground at the end of the street. When I arrived, the playground was empty. No children, no laughter, just silence. I walked in, feeling uneasy. The quiet felt wrong. I stood there, rain soaking me, straining my ears for the sound. Then the whistle sounded again. It was sharper, closer. I looked toward the woods, but nothing was there, just shadows flickering at the edges of my vision. My heart raced harder. I wanted to turn and run, but my feet felt glued to the ground. Then I heard it, a voice whispering my name, soft, sweet. Something stirred in my mind. I looked around, but saw only the empty swings swaying in the breeze. Did I imagine it? I wasn't sure if I was still dreaming. Maybe I was losing my mind. A chill spread over me, making the hairs on my arms stand up. It wrapped around me, and I could feel that I wasn't alone. I took a deep breath, trying to compose myself, but the chill deepened, creeping up my spine. I didn't want to be there anymore. Without thinking, I turned and bolted back to Maple Street. The rain slashed my face, but I didn't stop. I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I don't remember how I got home. Did I just stumble through the door? I still think of that whistle. I still hear it sometimes when it rains. The kids keep talking about their friend, but I know something is out there, something that calls in the dark, and I can't make sense of it. The next morning, I woke up feeling exhausted. The events from last night echoed in my mind, a mixture of fear and confusion. I couldn't shake off that whisper, that haunting sound that seemed to wrap around me. I hadn't slept well, my dreams filled with shadows and echoes. I was still rattled, but life had to go on. I got ready for school, forcing myself to focus on the day ahead. As I walked into the classroom, I was met with cheerful faces, but a heaviness lingered over me. I tried to engage the kids, but I noticed them glancing outside, whispering among themselves. Their excitement felt ominous, as if they were waiting for something, a secret I didn't know. At lunch, I sat with a few teachers. They talked about mundane things, lesson plans, weekend plans. I wasn't really listening. My mind kept drifting back to the playground. I excused myself, needing air. I stepped outside into the chilly October breeze, hoping it would clear my head. That's when I saw them. A small group of children stood near the edge of the woods, all staring intently at something hidden among the trees. I approached, drawn and apprehensive. When they noticed me, they turned, their faces pale. "Miss Taylor, do you hear the whistle?" one of them asked. It was the same question I had dreaded. I stammered, unsure of how to reply. "What whistle?" They exchanged glances, their eyes wide. "The whistle from our friend," another said, as if I should already know. The word friend felt charged, like a key to a door I wasn't ready to open. "Who is he?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual, though my heart was racing. "He's really big, and he wants to play," a girl exclaimed, her excitement stark against the fear in her eyes. "But the adults say he's dangerous." "What do you mean dangerous?" I pressed, feeling ice settle in my stomach. The kids looked at each other again, whispers dancing like smoke on their lips. Then one boy, braver than the others, said, "He can make you forget. He tells you to come play, but sometimes people don't come back." A chill gripped me, realizing this wasn't a simple childhood game. I felt the weight of their words. I wanted to protect them, but how could I protect them from something I didn't understand? I scanned the trees nervously. Did the whistle call out to children alone? What if it had called to them already? I had to find more answers. I couldn't leave it like this. Suddenly, the wind picked up, swirling around us and stealing the warmth from the day. I glanced back at the children, but they were already gazing again at the forest, their attention held captive by something unseen. My heart thudded as I turned to leave. But as I stepped away, a sharp whistle cut through the air, echoing through the trees. It sounded different this time, urgent, almost pleading. My stomach dropped. I stood frozen. That was when I knew I had to face this mystery head-on. I couldn't do nothing. I started to move back toward the woods, drawn by an unseen force. I knew I wasn't just walking away anymore. I was stepping into something dark. I had no idea what awaited me, but I felt it lurking, waiting for me to take the next step. The moment I took that first step toward the woods, a shiver raced down my spine. The whistle played again, clearer this time, like it was calling to me. I paused, heart racing, uncertain. The children stayed behind me, their eyes wide with a mix of fear and curiosity, as if they were waiting for me to somehow lead the way. "Miss Taylor, are you going?" one of the girls asked, her voice shaking. It made my resolve falter for a moment, but I couldn't turn back. I had to find out where the sound was coming from. As I approached the tree line, the sun filtered through the leaves, creating patches of light on the ground. The shadows seemed to dance around me, playing tricks on my mind. I looked back at the group. They remained at a distance, whispering among themselves, their shapes almost merging into the trees. "I'll be right back," I called out, unsure who I was trying to reassure, them or myself. The whistle sounded again. This time it felt closer, somehow more intimate, as if it wanted to wrap around me. I could almost hear a voice behind it, a playful tone, filled with mischief. I stepped further into the woods, each footfall heavier than the last. The underbrush crackled beneath my shoes, amplifying the silence that surrounded me. "I'll be right back," I called out, unsure who I was trying to reassure, them or myself. The whistle sounded again. This time it felt closer, somehow more intimate, as if it wanted to wrap around me. I could almost hear a voice behind it, a playful tone, filled with mischief. I stepped further into the woods, each footfall heavier than the last. The underbrush crackled beneath my shoes, amplifying the silence that surrounded me. The trees grew thicker, and soon the sunlight faded, replaced by an eerie dimness. That's when I noticed something on the ground, a small bracelet glinting in what little light remained. It was a child's bracelet, a colorful string of beads. My breath hitched in my throat. I recognized it. One of my students, Mia, had one just like it. I picked it up, examining it closely. "Mia?" I called, my voice echoing softly among the trees. No response came. An unsettling feeling settled in my stomach. I gripped the bracelet tightly, feeling like I was holding on to a lifeline. And then I heard it again, the whistle. But this time it was different. It wasn't playful. It was more demanding, like a command. I felt a pull, a force urging me deeper into the woods. I shook my head, trying to fight it. "No, this isn't right," murmured, more to myself than to anyone else. I took a step back, clutching the bracelet like a shield. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted. A rustle in the bushes drew my attention, and my heart dropped. Someone, or something, was moving in there. The air felt electric, charged with an anticipation I couldn't understand. "Is anyone there?" I called out, my voice barely above a whisper. The rustling stopped, plunging me into silence. But then came the unmistakable sound of laughter, childlike but twisted, echoing through the trees. It sent ice through my veins. I turned to leave, but instinct told me to stand my ground. "You won't take them! I won't let you!" I shouted, surprising myself with the strength of my words. The woods seemed to respond, the branches swaying ominously as if mocking my defiance. I was out of my depth. But as that laughter rang out again, the thought struck me, what if this was my chance to take control? I had to know the truth. But before I could make a plan, a figure emerged from the shadows. It was a child, standing motionless, with wide eyes staring right at me. I took a sharp breath, my heart racing. An overwhelming desperation rose up within me. That figure didn't just pose a new threat, it promised answers. But I couldn't tell if those answers were what I wanted to hear. "Who are you?" I demanded, my voice trembling but firm. And then, everything went dark. I blinked, trying to adjust to the sudden darkness. Panic crept in on me from all sides. My heart pounded louder than before, each beat reverberating in my chest. I fumbled in the pitch black, reaching out to find something, anything to hold on to. Then, just as quickly as it had vanished, the darkness lifted. The dim forest light returned, but things were different. The child I had seen was gone. I stood in the same spot, alone, but the feeling of being watched lingered in the air. The hairs on my arms stood up, and I felt as if the woods were closing in around me. "Mia!" I called out again, my voice quivering. No answer. The only sound that met my ears was the rustling of leaves, whispering secrets that I couldn't interpret. I started to move forward, my instincts kicking in. The bracelet still clutched in my hand felt like a weight, a reminder of why I was here. The whistle echoed once more, softer now, almost like a gentle breeze blowing through. Each note hung in the air like a promise, yet it only filled me with dread. As I carefully tread deeper into the woods, I spotted something faintly glowing in the distance. I hurried toward it, my thoughts tangled between hope and fear. The glow grew brighter, revealing a clearing ahead. There, in the center, was something I never expected to see. A small, weathered piano, its keys chipped and covered in moss. What was a piano doing here? The mystery only deepened. I approached, drawn to the instrument as if it held the answers I sought. I reached out slowly, hesitating just before my fingers touched the keys. Then I heard it again. The laughter, more pronounced this time, emerging from the shadows surrounding me. "Stop! Who's there?" I shouted, but my voice felt small and weak. The laughter echoed back, swirling around the clearing like a cruel wind. The sense of urgency surged within me. I backed away from the piano, ready to flee. Just then, I noticed something on the music stand. A piece of paper, crumpled and half buried under the keys. My curiosity overrode my fear, and I snatched it up.
The words were scrawled in a hurried, childlike handwriting. It read, "If you want to find us, follow the music." Find us? What did that mean? A wave of confusion hit me. Who was I supposed to find? Just then, the ground trembled slightly beneath my feet. I looked around, panic rising. The shadows were deepening, coalescing into shapes.
Figures I couldn't quite make out seemed to circle the clearing. I felt trapped, suffocated by the invisible pressures of the woods. The whistle sounded again, louder this time. The trees creaked ominously. It was no longer playful, it was a warning. I had to get out of here. I turned on my heel, heart pounding as I navigated back through the darkened woods. Each step echoed with the laughter behind me, but I couldn't look back. That's when I noticed movement out of the corner of my eye. A shadow darted between the trees, fast and agile. I froze, my breath caught in my throat. What was following me? I turned to run, and then everything went dark again. I stumbled blindly, my heart racing as I fought against the darkness. I could feel the cool air wrapping around me like a thick fog, obscuring my path. Panic surged again, tightening my chest. I raised my hands, trying to find anything to steady myself. Just then, a thin ray of light pierced through the blackness, illuminating the space around me. I squinted, trying to make sense of my surroundings. The woods had turned into a labyrinth of twisted branches, all contorted shapes that looked almost familiar. A low growl echoed from somewhere nearby. It was like a warning, a predator reminding me I was not alone. My instincts screamed at me to flee, but I stood frozen. "Who's there?" I barely managed to whisper, the fear curling my voice into something almost unrecognizable. No answer came, just the wind rustling through the leaves, carrying with it the distant melody of that whistle, an echo of the child's laughter. I felt the urge to follow it, driven by an inexplicable need to know. I took a step, the ground cold and damp beneath my feet. As I moved cautiously, I could hear whispers, low and urgent, swirling around me. They seemed to beckon, urging me forward. With every step, the brush of the undergrowth against my legs felt like hands, grasping, tugging at me to stay. Suddenly, the shadows shifted. The darkness inched closer, swirling and thickening like smoke. I let out a shaky breath and took off, moving blindly through the trees. I glanced over my shoulder, and for a fleeting moment, I saw the glimmer of two eyes staring back. They were small, a child's perhaps, but full of intent. I turned back, forcing my legs to pump faster. Ahead, I spotted a break in the trees. Light spilled in from the other side, warm and inviting. I sprinted toward it, desperate to escape the oppressive gloom. Bursting through the underbrush, I stumbled into another clearing, heart racing, only to find myself in front of a strange wooden structure. It looked like an old shed, but something about it felt alive. The door was slightly ajar, and a bright light flickered inside. I had this instinctive pull toward it, maybe a lure, but caution fought against my desire to enter. With my hand shaking, I pushed the door open wider. Stale air mixed with the scent of wet earth, and something sweeter. A single candle lit the room, casting long shadows around strange objects covered in dust. On a small table there was another piece of paper, this one intact, with careful cursive scrawled across it. "The music always finds you." Was this a warning or an invitation? Before I could ponder it any longer, a loud crash came from behind me. I whirled around to see dark figures spilling out of the woods, their laughter mingling with the chilling wind. They were faster than I expected, and fear grabbed hold of me once more. I bolted back toward the thicket, avoiding whatever was now chasing me. But I couldn't shake the thought of the note. The music always finds you. What kind of game was this? The trees swallowed my cries as I turned a corner, and just then I realized I was not following the music. It was following me. I ran without stopping. The sounds of laughter faded into growls, and I could feel the heavy presence of something chasing me. My breath came in rapid bursts, and the damp air stung my lungs. The whispers were now clearer, twisting through the trees like tendrils trying to pull me back. I couldn't let them catch me. I couldn't shake the feeling that I might disappear into those shadows if I slowed down. My feet found a path, a narrow thread among the branches, but it felt like it was closing in around me. I pressed on, limbs scraping against rough bark. Ahead, I noticed another flicker of light. This one pulsed and danced like a heartbeat, drawing me further in. Was it a safety or another trap? My instincts clashed as I fought against the urge to run toward it, but then I heard the whistle again. A child's tune, soft and alluring, seemed to twine around me, urging me forward. In a moment of clarity, I broke through to another clearing. A wide, shallow pond reflected the moonlight, casting the area in a silver glow. My legs ached, and I couldn't catch my breath. I crossed to the water's edge, feeling the pull of the light still drawing me closer. That's when I saw it, a figure standing on the opposite bank. The silhouette was small, childlike, dressed in tattered clothes that fluttered like leaves in the wind. As soon as I spotted them, they turned, revealing a face that seemed oddly familiar. The child's lips curled into a grin, but their eyes were dark, devoid of warmth. "Come play," they called, the voice echoing as if it belonged not to one but many. My heart raced again, hammering against my ribs. The urgency to flee surged, but a strange weight held me in place. I could feel the water lapping softly at my feet. The whispers grew louder, an almost rhythmic chant. "No!" I shouted back, but the sound felt lost, swallowed by the night. The child's eyes seemed to darken further, and the laughter returned, a chorus of mocking giggles surrounding me. Panic surged again. I turned to run, but the shadows were everywhere now. They danced at the edges of the water, creeping closer, each moment wrapping tighter around me. My mind was swirling with questions. Why was I here? Who was that child? Then, without warning, the water erupted, sending a spray into the air. From within the depths, something shifted, rising up. It wasn't the child anymore. It was a figure, cloaked and large, emerging through the mist. My heart dropped. I backed away instinctively, trying to track my escape. But then the figure raised its arm, and from its dark cloak, I heard the music again. It was a melody I'd heard all my life, but never recognized. The shadows lunged toward me, and I couldn't decipher their intent. Were they trying to help or harm? I spun back to the pond, searching for the child, but they were gone. The laughter faded into the night, leaving only the haunting music swirling around me. Suddenly, I stumbled and fell to the ground, the cool earth hitting me hard. I barely had time to think before one of the shadows loomed above, and then everything went dark. I jolted awake, gasping. The air was still cold, tinged with the smell of damp earth and moss. My heart raced as I bolted upright. Had it all been a dream? But then my gaze swept around, and my stomach dropped. I was still by the pond. The shadows were gone, but the air felt thick, heavy with unspoken secrets. I blinked against the bright moonlight, trying to gather my thoughts. The gentle ripples on the water reflected stars that seemed to wink knowingly at me. I let out a shaky breath. If this was a dream, it was a vivid one. My hands trembled as I pushed myself to stand,
the weight of uncertainty pressing down on me. "Where did they go?" I whispered to the night. Silence answered, creeping in around me. That strange melody still lingered in my ears, a haunting echo of something I should remember. I moved to the water's edge, squinting through the darkness. The pond was calm now, betraying none of the chaos from moments before. Then a flicker of movement caught my eye. I turned sharply to the right. Another figure, not the child or the cloaked shape, but something smaller darted between the trees. My instincts flared. Should I follow it, or was it another trap? Hesitation gnawed at me, but curiosity won. I stepped carefully away from the pond and into the shadows of the trees, keeping my eyes peeled for any sign of the figure. The path, though familiar now, twisted like a serpent. I strained to listen, hoping for a clue, a sound, a whisper, anything that would lead me closer to the truth. Just ahead, I noticed something glinting in the moonlight. It was an object, half buried in the dirt. A frayed ribbon, bright and red, tangled with what looked like dirt-stained paper. I knelt down, scooping it up. As I brushed the debris away, I realized it was a drawing, a child's drawing, full of wild shapes and scribbles. Among the chaos, I spotted a familiar figure, a small child with dark eyes and a wide grin, standing next to a towering shadow. My blood ran cold. It was the same child from the pond.
My fingers tightened around the ribbon, heart racing as I flipped the paper over. A series of words were scrawled hastily. "Find me before they take me." The urgency of those words wrapped around me like a vice. Who were they, and how much time did I have? Then I heard it again, the child's tune, clearer this time. I took a breath, the weight of fear smashing against the urgency in my chest. I shoved the drawing into my pocket and made my decision. I had to find the child. I couldn't let them be taken. As I pressed deeper into the trees, the laughter returned, a sinister accompaniment to the music that pulled me further down the path. I followed the sounds, knowing that once again I had stepped into a shadowy game. Each footstep felt precarious, as if I was playing a part in something much larger than myself. But I couldn't turn back now. The stakes had just become far too personal. I pushed through, listening intently, my fear morphing into something sharper, more urgent. The only thing clear was that this night was far from over. The shadows pressed in closer as I followed the echo of the child's laughter. Each step seemed to pull me deeper into a maze of twisting branches and thick underbrush. It was nerve-wracking, but the thought of finding the child drove me forward. I couldn't shake the terrifying idea of what might happen if I didn't. Just as I thought I was close, the melody shifted again, twisting unexpectedly. It became softer, sweeter, almost like a lullaby that wrapped around me. I slowed down, straining to hear. The laughter faded, replaced by a soft, inviting hum that seemed to float through the air, beckoning me. Something about it both thrilled and unsettled me. Then I froze. Up ahead, illuminated by a shimmering stream of moonlight, I spotted a clearing. In the center stood an ancient oak tree, its gnarled branches reaching skyward like pleading hands. But it was what lay beneath that tree that caught my breath. I dared to step closer, my heart pounding in my chest. The air felt charged, heavy with anticipation, like the moment right before thunder strikes. I kneeled before the box, fingers trembling as I reached out to touch its cool surface. There was no lock, nothing to keep anyone from opening it. That's when I heard it again, a soft whistle, sharp and clear, slicing through the stillness. It came from somewhere nearby, not the child, but a voice, older and more sinister. My instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't move. I was rooted to the spot, captivated by whatever lay inside the box. With a deep breath, I lifted the lid.
Inside was a small collection of trinkets, a broken compass, a frayed ribbon like the one I found earlier, and what looked like a set of small animal figurines.
Each one was intricately carved, their eyes glinting in the moonlight as if alive. They were charming, yet they sent a chill down my spine. I rummaged through the contents, hoping for a clue, a sign, anything that would explain the child's warning. That's when my fingers brushed against something cold and hard. I pulled it out, my breath hitching. It was a silver locket. The intricate design sparkled, but it was the inside that captured my attention. I opened it. The photographs inside showed two faces, youthful and vibrant, but unfamiliar. Suddenly, a sense of urgency gripped me, the connection to the drawing and the child becoming overpowering. I couldn't linger. Someone was searching for that box, and I felt like I was no longer alone. Then, out of nowhere, the bushes rustled violently. My heart raced. I slammed the box shut and scrambled back, eyes wide, scanning the darkness for movement. A figure, partially concealed by shadows, stepped into view. It was the same child from my drawing, but something was different. Their grin now looked more like a warning. "Come play with us," they whispered, their voice now low and eerie, tinged with something dangerous. Time froze as I met their gaze. I realized with a sinking feeling that whatever was happening was just about to get much worse. The child stepped closer, their eyes glinting with an unsettling light. Fear coiled in my stomach. "What do you mean, us?" I asked, my voice barely more than a whisper. Their grin widened. "The ones who are always here." A chill swept through me. I took a step back, the grass crunching beneath my feet. This wasn't the innocent child I had been searching for. I could feel it in my bones. "Where's the other one? What's happened to them?" I demanded, trying to sound brave, though the air felt thick like it could smother me. The child looked behind them, toward the shadows, as if expecting something to appear. "Playtime is soon," they said, their voice dripping with delight. "Don't you want to join?" I turned and bolted, adrenaline flooding my system. Branches clawed at my skin as I pushed through the underbrush. I could hear them, the soft laughter mingling with whispers that filled the night air. "Come play," they coaxed, from every direction, echoing in my ears. I risked a glance back. The child stood under the oak, now surrounded by a haze of glimmering shapes, each one shifting like smoke. My heart thundered as I stumbled into the clearing, desperately looking for an escape. Then I saw the shimmer again. The box. It lay half open, the silver locket glinting, a beacon drawing me back. I hesitated, fear battling curiosity. Maybe I had missed something. I skidded to a stop. The locket held secrets, something that could connect me to these spirits, or whatever they were. But was it worth the risk? The laughter grew louder, more insistent, and I made a choice. I darted back, heart racing, snatched the locket from the box, and shut it tight. My hands trembling, I examined it more closely. As I flipped it over, a strange symbol caught my eye, an intricate design that seemed to pulse with an inner glow. "Do you have it?" The child's voice cut through my thoughts, now closer than before. Panic surged. I turned, and there they were, surrounded by shadowy figures. They reached out, fingers elongated and pale, the glow from the locket illuminating their faces in a grotesque light, twisted into expressions of excitement. "Let's play with it," the child urged, stepping forward, the shadows unfurling around them like they were alive. My instinct screamed at me to jump back and run. They were closing in. Suddenly, I felt something cold wrap around my ankle. I stumbled, but quickly regained my balance.
The urgency to leave surged again. I couldn't let them take this from me. I backed away, clutching the locket. Then everything changed. The ground shook, a low rumble that echoed through the clearing. The figures scattered into the darkness, but the child remained, their eyes fixed on me, a hint of anger spreading across their features. "What have you done?" they hissed, a warning hanging in the air between us. My pulse quickened. I had no idea what I had stirred, but I could feel the weight of it pressing in, filling the space between my thoughts. There was no going back. I turned and ran, the forest erupting with laughter behind me, a cacophony that chased me deeper into the night. I needed to get away, yet a part of me wondered if I had merely opened a door to a fate worse than I could imagine. What had I set in motion, and was I truly prepared for what came next? I ran through the trees, branches whipping against my face as I sprinted deeper into the woods. The laughter echoed around me, taunting and teasing, wrapping around me like a shroud. I could almost feel the shadows clawing at my heels, desperate to pull me back into their ethereal grip. My heart raced, wild and frantic, battling against the sound of my own breath, quickening with every step. I burst through the underbrush and stumbled into a familiar clearing. The pond shimmered in the moonlight, but it felt different now, menacing, as if the water itself were alive and watching. I slowed down, trying to catch my breath and collect my thoughts. The locket hung heavy in my pocket, a tangible connection to whatever darkness had followed me. Where had the child gone? What had I unleashed? The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it an urgent warning. They were still out there, watching, waiting. Suddenly, the whistle rose again, a haunting melody that wrapped around me, compelling me, and before I could think better of it, I was moving toward the water's edge. It felt like a duel between my instincts and the pull of something deeper. I needed answers, needed to know what this was all about. "Mia," I called out, my voice trembling. "Where are you?" The air thickened, pressing against me, but no response came.
The ripples on the pond's surface danced like the shadows in the trees, blurring the line between reality and whatever secret lay beneath. As the whistle echoed again, I felt a jolt of recognition. It was the same rhythm, the same allure that had stitched the night together since the beginning. My fingers brushed against the cold locket, and an unsettling intuition flickered in my mind. Perhaps it wasn't just the children who were lost. I knelt at the water, my heart racing. Leaning over, I searched the depths below, hoping to catch a glimpse of anything familiar. And then, as if in response to my desperation, a bubble formed on the water's surface, bursting with a gentle splatter. A moment later, something stirred beneath, a shadow, gliding through the depths. My breath caught in my throat. It felt as if the pond was trying to speak, to share its story, if only I dared to listen. "Please show me," I cried, desperation lacing my voice. The sound of laughter picked up, almost mocking in its certainty. But then the shadow materialized, a figure emerging from the water, cloaked in darkness and mist. "Mia?" I whispered, straining to see. The figure looked up, their face obscured by the glimmering mist. And for a fleeting moment, I thought I saw her, a shimmer of dusty brown hair in the moonlight, the familiar twinkle of her mischievous smile. "I found you!" I shouted, reaching for her. But just as quickly, the figure vanished back into the depths, ripples distorting the stillness. The laughter crescendoed, filling the clearing like 1,000 whispers echoing off the trees, drowning any hope of clarity. I stood there, feeling hollow, consumed by doubt. What if I was chasing a ghost? "Is it too late?" I pleaded into the void, my voice cracking. "What do I do?" In that moment, I sensed it, the shadows closing in around me again, weaving their dark tapestry. They were no longer just a backdrop to my fear.
They had become participants, swirling around, tugging at my resolve. I had stumbled into something much larger than a child's game. It was a web of lost spirits, their fates tethered to this place. Then came the whistle again, sharper and cutting, laced with urgency. The locket in my pocket throbbed, as if it were drawing from the energy around me. Find me before they take me. That child's phrase echoed in my mind. It was a warning, a plea, perhaps from Mia or someone else that had yet to surface. No longer could I stand idly by. I turned and sprinted back, making my way through the dense underbrush, every instinct urging me toward the oak tree. My heart hammered as shadows flickered near my periphery, nudging me to feel their presence. I regrouped my thoughts, realizing I needed to confront whatever was hidden in the dark. The locket, maybe it held the key. My fingers wrapped tightly around it as I neared the oak. The child appeared again, standing beside the gnarled tree. "You shouldn't have come back."
Their voice was breathy, echoing with an unsettling mirth. "What did you do to Mia?" I shouted, desperation spilling from my lips. "Playtime has consequences." They smiled wide, too wide, and shadows began to flicker behind them. "You shouldn't have taken that." I raised the locket, feeling its cold weight empower my resolve as the shadows pulsed and churned around us. "I don't care about the consequences. I'm not leaving without Mia." The air hummed, charged with tension. In a swift motion, the child faded, the shadows swirling in their place, and I felt that same urgency wash over me. I stepped toward the oak, compelled by a force I could barely understand. "Find the music," the shadows whispered, their voices melding into one. With that, the shadows pressed against me again, forcing me back to the pond. Where the whispers echoed, I felt the locket pulse like a heartbeat. The whispers were growing louder, drowning out my thoughts. I stepped to the edge of the water once more, determination flaring inside. "Show me!" I yelled into the night as the wind howled in response. That's when the voice rose from the depths, melding with the whistle. "Play with us." I held the locket close, heart racing. "No, I won't play, not your game." But the echo of laughter rippled through the air, sinister and true. I was still torn, caught in the grip of shadows and sweet tunes. The darkness pressed in, the child's voice echoing warningly. "It's too late for that." But I wouldn't give in. As the shadows loomed closer, I took one last resolute step forward, ready to face whatever truth lay ahead. I steeled myself against the unknown, for whatever sacrifice it required. Yet, beyond a veil only hinted at, questions left open, mysteries unraveling still. Would I emerge unscathed, or would the darkness swallow me whole? In the stillness that followed, the air shifted, something profound hanging in the balance, and I faced the void with resolve, prepared to uncover what truly lay beneath the whispers that haunted me.